Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
And how about anything you practiced from
No,
kinetics?
not yet. No. Kinetics didn't practice yet.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, Anthony. எப்படி இருக்கீங்க? How are you?
நல்லா இருக்கிறேன் மேம். நீங்க எப்படி இருக்கிறீங்க?
இருக்கும். So your last class வரலையே நீங்க?
கொஞ்சம் ஆபீஸ் ஒரு சைடு போக வேண்டியது இருந்தது. ஸோ போயிட்டு வரேன்.
Okay. Right. Very good. Right, we will wait for Abhijit. Let's see whether 5 minutes. If he joined, then we will see. Otherwise, 7:15 maybe we'll start. Huh?
Okay.
Right.
So today we are going to see two chapters, distillation and fluid transfer. Both are small only, don't worry. Because we can't cover everything in the distillation, because distillation is a petroleum engineering itself, a separate degree, like a chemical, right? Now bachelor in petroleum engineering is a separate 4-year topic. So that we can't cover here. So whatever related, just to recall, that we will see. And some theoretical question. Okay, then we go with the fluid mechanics. Right, fluid mechanics means it's a pipe, static head, pump, and all that we will see. Only 2 chapters, both are small only. Let's see. We will see maybe 5 minutes, see whether he is joining, otherwise we can start. Hi, how are you? We are waiting for you actually. Abhijit. Can you hear me, Abhijit? You are in mute.
Yes, I'm hearing.
Right. So can we start?
Yeah.
Right. So today we are going to see, Abhijit, last class you also absent. Yeah.
Come again? What you say, ma'am?
Last class you were also absent. You didn't join, right?
Yeah,
class?
Yeah.
What happened? Okay, everybody has
I reviewed the presentation.
Okay, yeah, very good. No, it's a good thing, in a corona situation, and at least the office all getting busy. That is good, actually. That means we are started to routine. That's what it indicates.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, very good. So maybe Mr. Kluxers, he didn't join yet. See whether we will start and see whether he joined. Let him join later on. Okay. Okay, let's start. Today we are going to see 2 chapters. One is a distillation, another one is a fluid mechanics. First, we will start with the distillation. Right? So just to recall petroleum refinery process. Right? So where crude oil distillation, right? We have this is generally we have a plate, here. Then you have it depends upon the crude oil, generally 400 degree, then lighter one should be on the top, then slowly the heavier one will be in the bottom, right? So this is called heavier one gases, normally until the 30 degree boiling point, until C4 it will be there, right? Naphthas, kerosene, gas oil and lubricant, fuel oil and asphalt. So just to show some picture. I don't know whether you all have got all those all my material. No, this material, I don't know whether you got it or not.
Yes, we have received it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The total flow. I mean, flow diagram for distillation. First, you have a atmospheric distillation with the crude oil. Then the lighter, that's called a lower end product. Again, they go with the vacuum distillation here. Let me zoom. I don't know, I cannot see here.
This is given separately, ma'am?
That's what I'm not really sure whether you have got it or not. Can you later you check and let me know, then I will send it to you all.
Okay.
Okay. So there are two type of distillation generally, because the first slide, what I show you, it's overall process flow, right? But this is what in detail, even this is also not much covered, I would say, right? Atmospheric distillation, then we say the bottom, right? The bottom, then go to the vacuum distillation. From the vacuum distillation only, you will get the asphalt. And then you have a residuum first of all, right? That vacuum residuum, here it is atmospheric bottom or atmospheric residuum. Then you have all multiple process. You can have a hydrotreater. What does it mean by this hydrotreater? Then catalytic reformer. I think we will talk about catalytic reformer later on. That will convert from a low octane number to high octane number. Right? That's called a reformate. And then removing a sulfur. That's called a sweetening process. Right? That's we will talk about. That's here we will talk about that in when you review the question and answer. We'll talk about. I have a lot of questions in distillation. There are very rarely you will get a problematic question. Even that also related to the mass balance. And some you may have some boil-up ratio calculation and all. Most likely you will get a theoretical question in refineries. I mean in distillation. So this picture just to give you the overall idea, what are the process, right? So now let's go back to our slide. So generally you have a distillation tower, whether it is atmospheric or vacuum distillation, right? Normally you have a feed. Then on the upper portion, it's called a rectification section, and the bottom one is a stripping section. Anybody working in the refineries? Abhijit, Anthony, Vioran?
I have worked in the gas plant.
Yeah, I worked in refineries initially.
So you might have known better than me then. So if you have any more material, maybe please share it with others. Maybe that will help them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what rectification and stripping. Then you have a condenser, whatever contents, it will be collected in a reflux drum. Then the reflux again, they will feed back to the distillation and the distillate. Generally it is called a gas form, right? It will be exit, and the stripping section, you have a boiler, reboiler, and whatever the boil up, it will go up. The liquid will be from the top, it will be fed to the stripping section. Then here from boil up, we'll have a vapor, again it will be. This is called bottom product. So you need to remember that, like mass balance, the same thing. L is a liquid, B is a boil up, B is a bottom, L bar is coming as a pure feed liquid. Right, from the feed, whatever you can get vapor, this is V bar, and D is your distillate. So mass balance around the column, F equal to D plus B. So when you take it as a single component, that mass balance XF into the weight of mole of F, same way XDD and XBB. Right? That's what called mass balance. So when in rectification section, overhead, that is a V bar, which is nothing but L plus D. Whatever it is coming here, it is a L plus D, the total. Right? So again, you take a balance in the rectification section alone, then you again will get a XV in the V bar, that is equal to XL in the liquid plus XD in the distillate. So reflux ratio is nothing but R is nothing but L by D. L by D is called a reflux ratio. So then if you divide it by D, V bar by D, L by D, and here it is XD only, right? So the L by D become a reflux ratio. So the same XV, you can write it in a reflux ratio form. So if you can remember, if they can give you the mole concentration in vapor in a rectification section, right? So then you know this formula, you can use it. If you know the mole fraction of liquid and mole fraction of distillate, you can use this reflux ratio formula. You can calculate the V bar. From V bar, you can even calculate the bottom up also. This is the same thing what we discussed. Right, that is a reflux ratio. Then in a stripping section, come back to the stripping in the bottom, right? L bar is nothing but B, whatever in the vapor plus B, right? V plus B, that's what here, L bar equal to V plus B. Same here, boil up ratio is nothing but B by B, that's a boil up ratio. These two, reflux ratio and boil up ratio, please remember. The next is the key point is the liquid status, right? Whatever this, if it is a subcooled liquid, I mean, whatever in the liquid which is feeding from the top, right? If it is a pure liquid, that's called a subcooled liquid. Then you have a feed also will be in a liquid, and this is also will be liquid. Then the total L bar will be normally greater than F plus L. Right. So then here, if you see the vapor which is going out, since liquid feed all are pure liquid, then some of the component will get vapor, will get liquefied again here. So V that means V will be less than V bar. So if you understand the condition of the liquid, then you know how to calculate L bar also. Right. So if you see bubble point, what is the bubble point? Bubble point means vapor will be pure, there is no condensation, right? It will be in a higher temperature. Vapor will be in a very high temperature, so it will be going up to the exit. That's called a bubble point. So this is as usual. F is nothing but L bar is nothing but F plus L. It's really equal. Here, why it is greater than? Because there are some liquid, some vapor will get condensed out. That's why they put a greater than. But in the bubble point, F plus L is nothing but L bar and V bar is nothing but V. Right? So if they given a bubble point liquid, bubble point condition, then you remember, you take what is L, what is F, what is V bar, then you can calculate also. And that is a key point for you. Some hint they have given what formula you have to use, right? Similarly, partially vaporized also, but here partially vaporized also is very difficult because there are some of the liquid, right, is getting vaporized and it is going up. That also we do not know. So then that is what V equal to feed vapor plus your vapor which is coming from the bottom. That is a partially vaporized. So the key thing is bubble point and dew point is important. In a dew point, complete 100% feed is getting vaporized. That means V equal to F plus V bar. L is only the liquid which is coming from the top. That's called dew point. In superheated, there are L from the liquid also, some percentage will vaporize and feed also will vaporize. This is what I think we saw in some process calculation. 10% of the benzene is coming in the feed. It is getting vaporized, right? We saw. So that is something like a superheated liquid. I mean, if I assume it is a distillation tower. So this is what we can read that kind of status of a liquid, whether it is a bubble point or dew point or superheated liquid. So when you substitute those things, consider the cases where the feed is not super cooled or superheated. Then you can get the balance around the reboiler, around the condenser, and around the column. If you have a 3 mass balances, then you can vapor entering the rectification section. Then you can substitute that value. You will get the boil up ratio is nothing but D, the distillate volume or mole, plus the liquid that's in the condenser section, right? Boil up here. Boil up means in the bottom. There we go. Here, the L, D, right, which is coming to the liquid is coming to the stripping section. So minus your VF. VF is nothing but here, whatever from the vapor which is coming to the from the feed, whatever you are, some percentage is getting vaporized, right? That is called VF. So same way, if you know the D, L and VF, you can calculate the boil up ratio. So this is another, you don't need to remember everything. Just at least if you remember this boil-up ratio, there is a formula V by B, right? Boil-up ratio, V by B. And also you can calculate from if it is not a super cooled and superheated liquid, you can calculate from this formula also. Right. There is another thing which is talking about the number of theoretical plate, right? So no distillate is a product, total reflux. There is a formula, but so far I didn't hear, no, they have asked for this calculation because it's a big thing, because they have to give a relative volatility. That alpha is a volatility, right? So L1, LT, LB, everything they have to give, but I didn't hear they have given so far no feedback from student, but I just gave the formula. If they have given the volatility, if you know the mole fraction of in the overhead and the bottom distillate, you can calculate the number of theoretical plates required for that particular distillation process. Now, let's talk about some crude oil distillation. There is a crude oil can be characterization factor. This is called K factor or characterization factor. It's a systematic way of classifying a crude oil category, right? Or grade or type. It is being categorized based on the characterization factor. So according to the K factor, it can be the paraffinic or naphthenic or intermediate or aromatic nature. So if the K factor or characterization factor is 12.5 or higher, it indicates it's a predominantly it's a paraffinic constituent. In the crude oil, mostly the paraffinic will be there. 10 or lower indicate it is a more aromatic nature, right? So that is sometimes the K factor and UOP factor change. So I think the higher the number, characterization number, the price is I think high. That's what I understand actually. If a more aromatic nature, that will not be no that much good. I think here in the Middle East, generally K factor or they call it as UOP K factor, I think 11 plus if I'm not wrong, right? Anybody knows about that? The crude oil available in Middle East area, the K factor. Maybe you can search later on. I think it's 11 plus something if I'm not wrong. So aromatic nature will be mostly in Middle East, in Southeast Asia. Right? You have Malaysia and Singapore, there are refineries, crude oil is there. So there it is mostly aromatic. Okay, when you're talking about another factor which is here octane number. Yeah. That means a figure indicating the anti-knock properties of a fuel on the comparison with the mixture of isooctane and heptane. Most of the crude oil after distillation process, they have been used for the fuel, right? So why octane number, right? That octane number makes them to become a fuel. Generally, you should have, it's a mixture of isooctane and heptane. Octane number is the value used to indicate the resistance of a motor fuel to knock, right? That is what to ignite, I would say, right? Your engine has to be ignited. So that is called indicate resistance of a motor fuel to knock. So it's also known as a octane rating. So this is based on the scale on which isooctane is 100. That's a minimal knock required. Heptane is 0. The higher the octane number, the more compression required for fuel ignitions, right? The fuel with the higher octane numbers are used in a gasoline engines. Low octane number used in a diesel. So that's why in a diesel and gasoline, they have not mixed because of that octane number. You know, the tank, if you use a diesel car or petroleum car, you cannot top up another fuel. That will give you a problem because of this octane number. Cetane number measures the diesel. So octane number for gasoline means petrol, I can say, right? Cetane number we can say for diesel. The fuel having high octane number has a low cetane number and high cetane number has a low octane number. That is the reason we cannot use the petrol in diesel engine and diesel in petrol engine, because the engine has been designed as per diesel property or as per gasoline property. That is why they are telling about you should not mix, right? So for petrol, you should always remember high octane number, low cetane number. For diesel, low octane number, high cetane number. The another process which we saw in the flow in the diagram just now, I shared you some flow chart. In that there is a one thing called catalytic reforming, right? So there you have a convert the petroleum refinery naphthas distilled from the crude oil, right? Typically having low octane number, you are going to convert into high octane liquid products. That is called a reformate, right? So then which are premium blending stock of high octane gasoline. So there is a process where you can convert the low octane into high octane. So that process is called catalytic reforming. The whatever the product you are getting is a reformate, right? That will give a high premium blending, high octane gasoline, right? The process convert low octane linear hydrocarbons into branched alkanes, right, and cyclic naphthalene, which are then partially dehydrogenated to produce a high octane or aromatic hydrocarbons. What I'm telling, in the catalytic forming, after the reformate, there is a dehydrogenation is happening. Then it is converting into high octane and aromatic hydrocarbons. The dehydrogenation means removal of hydrogen. That's a dehydrogenation. Simply remember that. Significant amounts of byproduct hydrogen, which is fed to the refinery process, such as hydrocrack. So then it is going to the real refineries where you have a hydrocracking. They will do further cracking process, breaking the chain. Okay. So this is what the theoretically what I can give. But from the flow chart, you see there are certain processes are there. Either you read your material, or I don't know, please check whether the question, is there any more additional question has been shared to you or not? Otherwise, I will give them or I'll tell them to share it to you. There are a lot of distillation theoretical question I have. So that you can, when you practice more question, you will understand what is sweetening process, what is Doctor's solution. So some theoretical question you can understand, even catalytic reforming, what are the catalysts, that all you will understand. Now let's take some sample questions. This is a previously asked question. A binary mixture of tetrahydrofuran and isopropyl alcohol to be separated in a relatively pure stream, DHF and IPA, in a distillation column operating at atmospheric pressure. So it's an atmospheric distillation. The column material balance is summarized in the table below. They have summarized. For a stripping section, okay, they have given it is stripping section. They have given L by V ratio. They are asking you to calculate the vapor leaving the kettle in a flow rate LB mole per hour. So let's go back to here, the chart. If you remember this chart, it is here, right? This is a stripping section. They have given L by V ratio. They have not given the boil up, they are giving L by V, right? What is the question? It is a vapor leaving the reboiler. That means V bar they have asked, isn't it? V bar, V they are asking. V by L bar it is given, the V, the vapor leaving the reboiler. Okay, so now let's see what is the information given. They have given in the feed and the distillate at the bottom. Right? Each total flow rate, it's in LB mole per hour. So that is the question also. LB mole per hour is given, mole percentage is also given. How to calculate? L by V it is given. Yeah, L by V ratio is given 1.4. Then L is nothing but 1.4 into V. Right? Any idea? Let's take the balance.
L is equal to vapor plus bottom, no?
Right, yeah, L equal to vapor plus bottom. So L by V is nothing but 1 plus B by V, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? So then L by V is given. So then B by V 1 only there. So B by V is nothing but L by V minus V. That is nothing but 1. You substitute here, you divide this equation divided by V. Right? That means you will become L by V equal to 1 plus B by V, isn't it? So that means L by V is given as a 1.4. So 1.4 equal to 1 plus B by V. Right? So then B equal to 0.4 V. What is the question? So total bottom is given, B is given 1.259 into 0.4. Can you tell me what is the answer? 1.259 into 0.4. I don't know whether my 1.259 into 0.4. Something 0.5. The D is answer.
Point.
0.6, isn't it? 1.4, yeah, 0.4 V. B equal to 0.4 V equal to B. So it's a B by V, am I right? 0.4 V equal to B. So they're asking V. So 1.259 divided by 0.4.
$1.259. 3.14. 3.1 means option A.
I don't know, some disconnect in the internet. So the answer is 3.15.
0.15.
Yeah. So let me share the slide. I couldn't. Share here. So you understand how it, see, that looks like they have given big question and big table and all, but actually it's very simple. If you understand in a mass balance in stripping section, which is nothing but L equal to V plus B. So they are given L by V ratio. Then you divided by V in this equation. So L by V equal to 1 plus B by V. So then B by V equal to 0.4, then V equal to B divided by 0.4. So 3.15 is the answer. So let's go to the next question. Here, this is also repeatable question. The same question has been asked recently also. One of my student gave me feedback. An ammonia water system is a process in a trade stripping column with an external kettle boiler to recover majority of ammonia. A constant, so essentially it is a bubble point. That's a key thing, right? It's a bubble point. Constant molar overflow. So that shows the overhead ammonia mole fraction 0.95. Bottom of ammonia mole fraction is 0.01. In a feed, ammonia is a 0.4. So you have to calculate the boil up ratio. So it's a stripping column and the bubble point. Right? So again, you go back to the here. Stripping column, L bar is nothing but F plus L. In the feed, what is ammonia? Then in the liquid, what is ammonia? That gives your bubble point. And V bar equal to V equal to V bar. So then again, L equal to V plus B. V by B, we can take it as a here. Where it is. Boil-up ratio, you have to calculate. L bar equal to V plus B. Then if you substitute here, I think you will get it. Yeah. So if you divide it by B in everywhere that you will get. Let's see how it is being solved. Answer is A. Okay, they have given. So this is the mass balance. At bubble point, L bar equal to F plus L. That we saw V equal to V bar. So at L equal to 0, why it is L equal to 0? They have only taken into consideration of ammonia only, right? So to recover the majority of ammonia. That's why they take it as a L equal to 0. Then it is XF in the feed. So F by B, B by B plus XB here. Then for ammonia, what is the balance? For water, what is the balance? Then they have solved that one. They take it as a V by B equal to 0.71. So here you substitute 1 into another equation. So here it is a, what is F by B? That is 0.954 B by B into 0.01, right? That you substitute in any one equations, then you will get a value.
Why L is 0? I didn't understand.
See here, yeah, they are talking about the substitute L bar equal to F plus L. That means if you see here, bubble point, you have considered L is already there. This is only in the stripping section, and already we consider F plus L. That's a L bar. So that's what here we have talked about L bar, which is already in the feed actually. That's a point of a bubble point we talk about. So in the bubble point, L bar equal to F plus L and B equal to V bar. So then you substitute here, and the L equal to 0 means that is nothing but your pure liquid you are considering here. That's what everything in a feed plus vapor. Right? So this is a substituting that bubble point condition in your mass balance. Then you arrive your boil-up ratio. Right. So next question. This is all we talk about. From now onwards, is going to be more theoretical. Bottom product of atmospheric pressure crude oil distillation column is termed as
Asphalt.
Reduced crude.
asphalt.
Reduced crude. Yeah, option A.
Reduced to crude. Reduced to crude is the right answer. Asphalt will be in your atmospheric distillation, vacuum distillation.
Vacuum distillation.
Right? Asphalt. First you have atmospheric distillation, then you have a vacuum distillation. So asphalt will be the bottom product of vacuum distillation. Here they're talking about the atmospheric distillation. So it's called reduced to crude. Mercaptans are added to, this is very, very common question also being asked, to LPG. Why we are adding mercaptans?
Check the leak.
See, assist
Check the leak. Assist in checking the leak.
Very simple. 6. Crude topping column operates at
Crude.
atmospheric.
atmospheric should be atmospheric, right? Because the next one it's not crude, it is become a residuum, right? The residual crude is being topped up in your vacuum distillation. Here topping up crude is topped only in atmospheric distillation. 7. In a refinery, petroleum crude is a fractionate into gas fraction, light and intermediate distillate, heavy distillate, residues and byproduct. The group of a product including gas oil, diesel oil and heavy fuel oil belongs to fraction of
Distillates. Heavy distillates.
actually the answer is heavy distillate, right? Because it's already shown it's a heavy fuel oil, but there will be one confusion here because
Gasoline.
of diesel.
Gas oil.
Gas oil, right? There is some component they have given, but in the even gas oil, the difference between heavy distillate, intermediate distillate, some higher component gas oil still will be in your heavy distillate. Right? That's why the right answer is a heavy distillate. There are some lighter gas oil can be in your intermediate distillate also. LPG used for household cooking comprises mainly of
And butane.
Propane and butane.
propane and butane. Catalyst used in the catalytic cracking.
Vanadium pentoxide.
Vanadium pentoxide, I think.
Silica aluminum. I don't know why this answer, because there are many catalytic cracking process, and vanadium pentoxide, which process it will be used? I don't know. I don't remember.
I think fluid catalytic cracking.
So here they just the catalyst used in catalytic cracking in silica aluminum. I think that there are a lot of theoretical questions I have given. They have given some suggestion why it is silica aluminum and everything. You go through that. The characterization factor of a crude oil is calculated as a 12.5. It means that it is
Paraffinic.
paraffinic. Very common question. They'll give us some K factor. Then what is the characteristics of that crude oil? Fuel oil is subjected to whisk breaking to reduce its
Viscosity.
all. See, there is a one clue I have to tell you. Whenever you say all, better you select all. There's always, whenever you see one option which shows all, that will be the right answer. That is something simple, shortcut I tell you. No need to think about it. If there is anything, none of the above, I don't recommend. But if there is anything, all of the above, that will be the answer. So remember, whisk breaking is a process, reduce viscosity, pour point, and also the pressure drop. Right? You remember. So that may be a different way that maybe the question had put. Crude oil is subject to vacuum distillation in the last stage because why there is a vacuum distillation?
None of the above.
None of this.
None of the above.
Is it true?
High boiling points.
High
High boiling point, heavy fuel oil, lubricating oil, they are heat sensitive. They may decompose in atmospheric pressure. That's why we use a vacuum distillation to distill it further, right?
Decrease the
So
boiling.
that is the reason why there is vacuum distillation we use, because we want to distillate the further some heavier hydrocarbons, right? That is why. Which of the following has the highest octane number?
Aromatics.
This is also very common. Aromatics is the right answer. People will simply say octane or paraffin or something. But aromatics has the highest octane number. So petrol contains 3 to 4% of benzene, that's aromatic, right? Because of the carcinogen limitation, it cannot be used. But octane number, chemistry wise, they are the highest octane number. TEL is added in gasoline too. Have you heard about this? No, Shipra is something look like something. I never hear. Is it Shipra? We didn't see at all this. If you are in the sales and marketing, you never worry about this. We know you don't even remember. TEL is added in gasoline.
Normally we said that it is lead-free gasoline. Then
No, it is to increase its octane number, is it?
To increase the octane
This is
number.
octane number. How about Abhijit?
I'm
Refinery
saying,
specialist.
sometimes this companies mention that it is lead-free gasoline.
That means, so that we are adding a TEL in the gasoline. Lead-free gasoline means TEL is some carcinogenic, harmful substance. We should remove it. So after treating it, they are removing it. But why they are adding first of all?
To increase the octane number.
This is octane number. Right? We talk about catalytic reforming. In that, they are using a TEL. Hydrogenating catalytic desulfurization process for sweetening of petroleum product, use of hydrogen.
Both A and B.
What is the
Enhance
answer?
the desulfurization and minimize the coke formation.
So, answer is
C.
C. Whenever you see A and B, you take. But here also, as he said, desulfurization process, they will enhances Then coke formation also, right? So if you want to minimize the coke formation in the petroleum refinery process, that is the hydrogen will be used in a desulfurization, both. Doctor solution. Sweetening process just now we saw, right? What is sweetening process? Remove the sulfur.
Yeah.
Remove sulfur.
Sulfur and then minimize the coke formation. So in the doctor solution, we are adding in the sweetening process. What is the doctor solution?
Sodium plumbite.
Sodium plumbite. Correct. Very good. That's all about the what I have here. But more process related theoretical question. That problematic related to the mass balance, BB, that all whatever I have, that is the one. Mostly, if at all there is some problematic question, whatever it is given, that will become. Theoretical question, maybe they can change many things. I have some refinery, petroleum refinery theoretical questions. I think it's a 5 set of questions. Each question have a 30 or 40 questions. So just go through that. I have prepared from some other material. So, but there are some answer maybe right or wrong, but I would say first 2 paper you have mostly all are right. Anyhow, you go, when you go through the process itself, you will understand what is sweetening. Just now we saw what is sweetening. In the sweetening, what is the solution we are using? What is catalytic reforming? What is being added in the catalytic reforming? So same way, right? You can understand the whole process when you see the multiple questions. So that's what about the distillation. Now we go back, we go to the fluid mechanics. That's also small topic. Fluid mechanics. Here we are going to talk about pump, pipe, pump, flow rate. So just to recall the formula, pressure is nothing but force by area. F by A. Then force we can, pressure is equal to force into mass into gravity, gravitational constant, which is a 9.8 divided by A is the area, right? So here density, mass by volume is the density. So for rectangular or cylinder container, you can use a P equal to rho GH. Remember this formula, rho GH. Why? Because when you substitute V, it's not given here. Because V by A, right? V by A is nothing but H. That's what here I explained. Right? For cylinder, V by A is nothing but pi r squared H is the volume. Area is a pi r squared, then it gives H. The same way for rectangle. That's why in this formula, simply you can write down as a rho GH. That's a pressure calculation. Specific gravity is nothing but that particular fluid density divided by density of water. So density of water is nothing but 1000 kg per meter cube. So in terms of specific gravity and pressure, if you write down SG, specific gravity of that fluid, H, height is in feet, divided by 2.31. Because this is 2.31 is a conversion rate. Huh? So from the meter cube and PSI, they put it as a 2.31. So if you see height in feet and they ask pressure in PSI, this is the formula. SGH, H is in a feet divided by 2.31. Flow rate, Q equal to A into V. V is the velocity. Here the small v is the velocity, QA is the area. Now, here we are going to talk about the head, total head. When you see a pump, when you are using in a process engineering, so we are going to calculate the total head, which is nothing but static head. That's a total static head, right? And total vapor head and friction head and pressure head. Then that's what here that means HS plus HF plus HB plus HV. Total static head is nothing but discharge side static head. You can see this is a discharge. If there is a lower tank, there is an upper tank, you are pumping onto the higher one. So that from the center of the pump, you can see this is a HSD. And from here to here, the level of liquid, that's a HSS. Right? So then the difference is the HS, total static head. The static discharge is the vertical distance between liquid source tank. And that gives you a total static head. Friction head, there is a formula. Same way in a discharge plus friction in the discharge, friction in the static. Formula is there, FLV squared by 2GD, but it's a big formula. So normally you can ignore the friction because there is a Reynolds number for that pipe they have to give. So generally either they will say omit that friction head, ignore, or negligible. Otherwise you have, if they have given all the factor like roughness factor, Reynolds number, length and dia, gravity, everything, then you can calculate your HF also. Total vapor pressure. So vapor pressure is if supply pressure HPS equal to HPD, that means it's a total vapor pressure equal to 0. That means discharge vessel pressure. That is if supply pressure is a HPS, discharge, that means the vapor pressure in your discharge tank or in a supply tank. If both are equal, then it is a HP equal to 0. If it is a supply pressure, HPS is negative or vacuum. Right? That is so in a supply vessel, the pressure is either negative or vacuum, then you have to add both. If it is a positive pressure, then you minus it off to calculate your total vapor pressure head. The velocity head always V squared by 2G. That's a formula. HV is nothing but total velocity head, that is a V squared by 2G. G is a gravitational 9.81 meter per second, right? Meter per second square. So now the pump, very, very common question to calculate the pump output or power required, or they talked about one more formula will be there. I forgot. HP. HP is required by the pump. So that is power output, you have to can calculate W equal to the total head flow rate into the density of the liquid. Right? So, and also if you know the power output divided by the percentage of efficiency, the pump efficiency. That gives you how much power is required by the pump. H is a total dynamic head, flow rate, density of fluid, and the specific gravity. So to conversion rate, kW, kilowatt, this is HP. Right? Then if you say HP, you have to have a H in feet, Q in gallon per minute. Then only you can use this formula. Now there is another thing called NPHS, net positive suction head. Whenever the pressure in liquid drops below the vapor pressure, this is, you may hear about when you handle the pump, they will talk about you should maintain some pressure in the pump to avoid a cavitation, right? That is called a NPHS. Whenever the pressure in liquid drops below the vapor pressure corresponding to a particular temperature, then the liquid will vaporize in the pump, which will collapse the pump. So that is called a cavitation. So in order to avoid the cavitation, pump should be maintained at a NPHS required. So normally it should be less than or equal to whatever calculated NPHS value, whatever available or calculated value. First you calculate, then you maintain something higher than this value. Right? So this is nothing but all are static side, right? Static section, pressure in section. This is P is in a vapor pressure. This is a friction at section. This is a velocity at section. So P is a vapor pressure of the liquid. That's what. Let's start a question. A closed rectangular container is filled with a fluid which has a specific gravity is given. Pressure you have to calculate. What is the formula? Specific gravity is given means? What is the formula? Did you note down? Pressure is given, specific gravity is given, height they are asking, is it? Pressure they are asking. They have given the size, right? Divided by 2.31. So here, which is the height?
6 meter.
Can you calculate with 6 meters, specific gravity 1.7? But remember that they are asking for kP, kilopascal. First calculate in PSIG, maybe you check the conversion. What is the conversion for kilopascal? PSI into kilopascal. One PSI equal to 6.89. And the 6 meter is in a meter, but the formula is for feet, right? What we saw, the formula is in feet, right? H should be in feet. Or you can calculate rho, G and H using a P. Specific gravity is given as a, so take it water as a 1000 kg per meter cube, right?
Yeah.
So then calculate the fluid density. Then pressure equal to rho GH. Rho is the density of fluids, G is a 9.82 and H is your 6 meter. All right. Anybody calculated the value? If you see the conversion from PSI to kilopascal, it's a 6.895. 1 PSI G equal to 6.895 kPa. 6.895 kPa. I couldn't hear you. Shipra was saying something.
If everything is in meter, then what is the unit of pressure?
It should be kg per meter cube, right? That is the pressure, right? And that's a density.
I mean, why can't we
Meter per
simply
second.
just
No, why not you calculate the unit also? You know, H is in a meter and G is in a kg per meter cube, right? Then gravitational constant is meter per second square. So it's a kg per meter squared a second square. That is nothing but kilopascal, isn't it? Or Pascal.
So kilopascal, it's simple, no, isn't it? We just have to multiply 1.7 into 9.8 into 6.
Yeah.
Right?
How much you are getting?
99.6. 99.96.
You calculate into kg per meter square, then you convert into kilopascal. 0.00980 kilopascal. 1 kg per meter square, which is equal to 0.00981 kilopascal.
0.00
981.
981 kilopascal.
How much are you getting?
0.98.
Huh?
0.98.
Answer is B. The same way. Specific gravity is given. You can calculate rho. Anybody has calculated any value? What is the value? So maybe 0.00 is a double zero. You miss out any one. 0.00981 kilopascal. 1 kg per meter squared equal to 0.00981. If you see, the formula is right. Rho GH. So 1.7 is the unit. That's a rho G by specific gravity is nothing but liquid into 1000. That means 1700. You have to take it. 1700 as your density of that particular fluid. So 1700 into the meter. How many meter it is? 6 meter.
6 meter.
Yeah. 1700 into 6 into 9.81. What is the value? $1,700 multiply by 9.81 multiply by 6 into 0.00981. So
1
Is there any missing here? Unit conversion shows 9.981. The answer is B, 996 something, some around here.
No, my answer is coming 980. Before it was 99.96. If we multiply simply without calculating. Actually, density, specific gravity.
Is the conversion is correct? What I told you, is it correct? 1 kg per meter squared is 0.00981 kilopascal. This is what I'm saying here. I don't know. There are a lot of, some people say 1 kg per centimeter squared equal to 98 kilopascal. Check the conversion, whether the conversion is correct or not.
It is correct. It's correct. 0.00981.
Maybe here it is missing out a 9 or 9. 1 decimal is missing out. I don't know. If it is right, and there should be some decimal problem in the answer. Here also in meter, that is also in meter per second squared. Can you check later on and let me know whether it is correct answer or not? Is something around 100. What was, see, we miss out only kg per meter squared, but there is a second squared is in the, no, for gravitational constant is a 9.81 divided by meter per second squared, right? The unit for gravitational constant is 9.81 meter per second squared, right? Where we are? We are into the fluid mechanics. If you see here, see the gravitational constant, if you see, is a 9.81 meter per second square. That's a unit. So when you substitute here, rho is a kg per meter cube, g is a meter per second square, h is a meter. So what you will get? Kg per meter second square, isn't it? Am I right? Kg per meter second square. So 1 kg per meter second squared equal to 1 Pascal.
Okay. 1 kg.
Kg per meter second squared equal to 1 Pascal. So now it is something 100, isn't it? So what the value, whatever you are getting is a 100,062. Right? Now, if we take it, the question, if we hear 1700 multiply by 6 multiply by 9.81, what is your value? 1700 is the density of the fluid, multiplied by the gravitational constant is 9.81, multiplied by the height, which is a 6 meter. What is your value? 100,062. So then when you, that is a Pascal. So when you convert into kilopascal, it is 100 kilopascal. So which is what? 99.6. Clear? So the answer is correct. I'll add here 1 kg per meter second square, which is equal to 1 pascal. That's a unit. So what we are getting by multiplying the rho GH, we are getting in 1 kg per meter squared. That is nothing but 1 pascal. So then convert into kilopascal. So now the answer is B. That is correct. Let's go to the next question. This is a very repeatable question. Very often this question is being asked. 3 tank ABC at different elevation are interconnected as shown in figure. The level in the tanks are shown as the level in a piezometric tube. The flow quantities are also indicated. Under the above condition, the flow Q1, Q2, Q3 are related by why? What is the answer? Nobody is telling anything.
Q1 plus Q2 is equal to Q3.
Q1 plus Q2 equal to Q3. Any more? Is it right, everything? Shipra, Abjit? No idea? You both are in mute, so I couldn't hear you. See, Q1 plus Q2 equal to Q3, that is right. But by reading this figure, you have to understand. See, if see here, the level of tank is at 250, the pressure, and here the pressure is 200, right? So, but if you see in the point, in this point, the pressure is 170, which is less than 200. So the flow will be from B to this direction. So that's why Q2 will be added to Q1. So here it is high pressure, here is a high pressure, but this point pressure is low. So you don't just look into the flow chart or the slope of the pipe. You have to read by the barometric pressure. So because this 170 is less than this 200, then it become a Q1 plus Q2. If it is higher than the 200 but less than the 250, then sum of Q1 will go to Q2. So read that flow diagram correctly. A. This is also, they have given some diagram, then they ask you to calculate. The liquid is flowing from storage tank reactor through the different section of pipeline as shown in the flow diagram. What is the feed rate meter cube to reactor A? See, there is a storage tank. From the tank it is coming. Then there are some going to the reactor A, some going to reactor B. So they are asking you to calculate the reactor A feed rate, meter cube. So how to calculate? First, if you calculate the total flow rate coming here, right, then you can calculate that is equal to the flow rate is going to reactor A, flow rate is going to reactor B, right? Right? How to calculate the flow rate here? Velocity into height, right? Velocity into height, right? Or that's a volumetric flow rate.
Into area.
Area?
Correct. Velocity into area. So here, what is your area?
Pipe, then
5 into 3 square. Cross section area
Okay.
will be?
Yes, cross section area only.
it is pi r square.
Okay. So then calculate your the volumetric flow rate here. What is the area? Then you can calculate the volume here, right? In the reactor B, what is the volume? They have given velocity, they have given diameter. So equal. Calculate the total flow rate entering here and then calculate the total flow rate for reactor B. Then if you minus off, you will get the feed rate going to the reactor A. So here, what is the value? Whether you have to take 4 meter or 6 meter. Because that's a dia, right? Whether you have to take 4 meter or 6 meter.
4 meters?
No, you have to take a 6 meter. You know why? Because in the 4 meter, the velocity will increase. Because there is a big dia, then suddenly the diameter is decreased. So velocity will increase, but the velocity is not given here. So velocity given is only here. So the total flow rate will be here, the same flow rate will come. Right? If you want to take 4 meter, then the separate velocity should be given. See, read the diagram where the velocity is given. Take that respective dia. Okay, you calculate and tell me whether you are getting, because they didn't put in detail.
79.6. That is the flow rate.
That's the overall flow rate, but you need to calculate for reactor B also, no? So here what is coming is 79, total flow rate is 79.96. Then you calculate similar for reactor B, which is going to the reactor B. Then if you minus it off, you know the flow rate which is going to reactor A. What is a reactor B flow rate?
Okay.
Velocity to area. Area is here, you have to take a 1.5, simple. Pi r square.
14.13.
Yeah.
14.
So this one here, you can see. The total area is V into A, that is nothing but 2.83 is the pi. So 3.14 is the pi rate, 2.83 is your velocity. Then here 6 meter radii, you have to take a 3 into 3, that's a 3 squared. So that is equal to QA plus QB. QB is nothing but 14.13. So total is a 65.85 is the answer. Right? So read the diagram clearly, see where is the reduction and what are the values given for that particular point. Accordingly, you select the right dia, right velocity, then you calculate. Okay, if a pump handles fluid at temperature of 177 degree and a pressure of 164 psig with a 3.66 meter per second at suction nozzle, what is the NPSH available if the vapor pressure of fluid is 134 psa? Specific gravity is given. 177 degrees centigrade, specific gravity of the fluid is given. Vapor pressure of the fluid is given. Then fluid temperature and pressure is given, velocity is given. So what is the formula for NPSH available? You can see this one, right? NPSH available. Vapor pressure is given. Velocity is given. HES is how to calculate V squared by 2G, isn't it? V squared by 2G will get the velocity head. Friction you can ignore. HPS and HSS we know. But convert everything in a same unit. That's a key thing also again. Whether it is given in a same unit. Do you want to write down the formula? Copy this formula. P is a vapor pressure, suction static, pressure static, and friction static, and velocity static. Velocity pressure is nothing but V squared by 2G. NPSH calculation also very common. So what is the question here? If you see the question. So what are the things given? Velocity is given. You can calculate HVS, V squared by 2G, right? Then vapor pressure is given. That's a minus P. Vapor pressure is minus P. See here it is in a G, here it is in a A. So convert everything into PSIG. So friction and friction vapor, friction velocity you can ignore. Specific gravity is given. So how to calculate? P equal to rho GH. H we know, H we do not know. Then why there is a specific gravity is given? So what is given? HSS and HFS are not given. So HS is nothing but minus P plus HVS. VS is nothing but V squared by 2G. That means it's not given means you can ignore, right? HSS, suction static and friction static you can ignore. So suction head HS is nothing but H minus P plus HVS. HVS is nothing but V squared by 2G. Then you convert everything into feet. That is nothing but specific gravity divided by specific gravity into 2.31. That means they used this formula here, H to calculate, right? So this is P in PSIG, whatever put it in PSIG, multiply by 2.31 divided by SG, right? That is what you have to calculate. First, you calculate the H. NPHS is nothing but the total pressure, which is nothing but here 164, that's a gas pressure which is available, minus your vapor pressure, that's a 134, plus your velocity. This 2.22 feet that you have to convert into, no, that they have added separately. So for this one, they convert into feet. Plus the HVS is already in feet. So they have added the feet here. So why 14.7? Because they convert PSIA into PSIG. Right? You have to add 14.7 PSIG. That means 1 bar extra, right? If it is a gauge pressure compared to the absolute. That's why it is the gauge pressure. They have added gauge into absolute. They have added 14.7 minus 134. Into 2.31 divided by 0.89. That convert the whole thing, HGS minus P, whole thing into feet. plus HVS is a 2.22 feet. If you add it, you will get a 108.2 feet. That is nothing but 120. You understand how? Clear? So first you have to use the net NPSH formula, calculate the total height. Maybe in exam they may given all the in a feet. So you no need to convert here using that rho GH. You no need to, I mean, specific gravity into H divided by 2.31. That you no need to use it. Maybe you can add it straight away. But in this question, they have given it as in a pressure. So you need to convert that pressure into feet. For that, use a P equal to SGH divided by 2.31. Clear? Any doubt? Shipra was asking something. I couldn't hear you.
I just want to ask you, like, is there any specific percentage dedicated to each subject in the paper? Like, normally this is the percentage for the fluid mechanics, this is the percentage.
I was sharing each and every class how many questions will be coming from that particular chapter, right? So fluid mechanics, I would say two, 3 questions, 2 questions max, because the total is 25 questions only, right? So in that 5 question is a project management. So you will have a 5 question means 20 questions will be in your chemical engineering subject, right? Heat transfer, thermodynamics, process calculation. That will come 10 questions total, 10, 12 questions.
Okay.
Then we have a distillation, fluid mechanics, right? What else we saw? Kinetics, 2 questions. And we may have economic analysis, that depreciation calculation, depreciation, cost calculation, right? What is the product, what is operational direct cost, indirect cost, that cost calculation. So roughly we would say about 20 questions come from chemical, and mostly heat transfer, thermodynamics and process calculation, around 10 to 12 max. The balance 8 questions here and there.
Okay.
Distillation, fluid mechanics, and other chapters. Okay. Major is, I would say, heat transfer, thermodynamics, and the process calculation. Reaction kinetics, fluid mechanics, and distillation, you can take either 2 questions.
Okay.
Right? So generally, this is not the feedback. There is no question pattern set up. Huh? So we do not know. Maybe distillation for you, maybe they may ask 5 questions. Maybe we do not know. Some people have given me the feedback, some project management for some people, they got 8 questions. I don't know. Somebody says I got only 3 questions. Somebody says I got 5 questions. So I would say it vary 3 to 8, the max. So project management question. This is very often a repeatable question, this one. A liquid is pumped from a horizontal tank and delivered to the column. Right? From the tank, using a pump, it is delivered to the column. Operating pressure is given 0 psig. Design pressure is 50 psig. Temperature is given at 181 Fahrenheit. Vapor pressure is given. Specific gravity of liquid is given. Discharge pressure is given. They are asking the total dynamic head of the pump. Here we have to use everything. Vapor pressure, pressure head. Then we have to use the suction head. We have to use the discharge head. Everything is in a PSIG. You have to convert into feet. For that, you have to use a specific gravity formula. P in PSI is nothing but specific gravity into SGH divided by 2.31. If you see this formula, I have to use. Whenever you see pressure, this formula, PSIG, SGH, H in feet divided by 2.31. This formula I have to use. This is what they have asked here, right? The total. In that pressure is a vapor pressure. Here it is a vapor pressure head, velocity head, V squared by 2G, vapor pressure also there, discharge pressure also. The total dynamic head means the difference between suction and the discharge. So in the suction side, what are the pressure you have? You will have here that pressure, right? And the vapor pressure. The discharge pressure is a 190 psig. That 190 psig convert directly into the feet. Then calculate the total suction side pressure. Then the difference. Clear? So in the discharge pressure 190 psig convert into feet. How much? How to calculate? Just now I said P in PSIG equal to specific gravity of the fluid into H
divided by
divided by 2.31. So H you have to calculate. Pressure we know. Can you calculate the discharge side head? Can you calculate and tell me? Don't go to the other. Just tell me the discharge head first. The formula is P is in PSIG, which is equal to SGH divided by 2.31. Specific gravity is given. H you have to calculate.
541.
Pressure is given as a 190 PSIG. How much?
541.8.
541.8. That's a discharge. Let's Abjit you calculate. Then now you convert this vapor pressure also into PSIG. So velocity is given. It is a 0 PSIG here. So that is nothing but 14.7. That's our pressure. So total suction side pressure is 14.7 plus 14.7, isn't it? Here. Head available is 26 feet plus 10 feet. Okay. And this is your vapor pressure, 14.7. That you convert into feet. Friction feet is 0. Operating pressure is a 14.78. That also you convert into feet. So the section side is whatever available plus 419 minus your vapor pressure. Correct. See, from this diagram, they have taken a height straight away, the suction side height, 26 feet from the center of a pump, plus they have taken at a 10 feet here. That's the max. 6 to 10 feet, right? So they take it as a max here. That's why you can see 26 feet plus 10 feet, right? That is equal to 56 feet. That is the head available at the suction side. Then convert the vapor pressure 14.7 PSI. Convert that one into head. You can see 2.31 divided by 0.81. That is a 41.9 feet. Right? Friction you can ignore. Operating 0 PSIG. Right? So that one also convert into PSIA, which is nothing. What is it? 14.7, yeah. 14.7 PSIA, that also you convert into feet. That is also 41.9 feet. So you have to take a 36 plus your operating pressure, which is 14.1 minus the vapor pressure. That is also 14.1. So you'll get a 36 feet, right? So whatever in the discharge, 190 PSIG, that is in a G, you have to convert into PSIA, 14.7, calculate that one. You will get a feet, 583 feet. So the difference, 583 minus the discharge, suction, 36, that gives a 547. Right? Remember, when you use this 2.31 divided by 0.8, it's a PSIA. I think I need to correct the slide also. Nobody has highlighted. No, it's in the PSIG, but in the question it is given as a it is also PSIG only. Then why they are adding? I think PSIA. I need to, is it a PSIA? I think I just only put PSI. So it has to be a PSIA. So you understand how it is being calculated? First, take a section side from the height, 26 plus 10, right? That gives your section side feet. That you keep it as a section side feet. Then convert the operating pressure into the feet. 0 PSIG, convert into PSIA, 14.7 PSIA. That you convert into feet. Then the vapor pressure is already 14.7 PSIA. That you convert into feet. That is a total section. The discharge is a 190 PSIG. That you convert into PSIA first, plus 14.7. Then convert that one into feet. 190 plus 14.7, total PSIA, convert that one into 2.31 divided by 0.81, 583. So the difference, 583 minus 36 gives your 547. most likely close to 523. That's the highest closer. They are putting a 523. For some people, they are getting option as a 532. I don't know what option they are giving. 500 plus 520, 530. You take that answer. Understand this question very commonly. This question is being asked in a fluid, because in a fluid mechanics always the calculation question. Whatever it is given, the calculation question, if you understand, even though the change in numbers, you know how to solve it. Now, this is something a little bit theoretical. Hi, there is one person in the team. He does not want daddy to read it. Yeah? Every time I need to attend the class, now you are attending the class, is it? Okay, question number 6. What is the answer? Can you read it? The dash of a double acting reciprocating pump as compared to the single acting pump, which will be double?
Flow output.
Flow output. Simple. Single acting pump, double acting pump, the flow will be double. Okay, this is, you read it and tell me. Very interesting question. This is also sometime it is getting repeated in the exam.
Should be turbulent.
Whether it is a minimal turbulent, highly turbulent. There's a
Highly turbulent.
Highly turbulent. See, that's a logic, right? There is a 3 pipeline. I want to avoid the gas contamination. Highly turbulent. If it is a laminar, it will be well mixed, right? So better to keep a highly turbulent. This question also repeatedly asking. So, in this figure shown, the following curves for a pumping system are plotted. They have given a graph, height versus capacity, right? But the thing is, it's not only height versus capacity, it's a multiple graph given in one chart, right? They have given efficiency. Efficiency means you have to include, this is a percentage of efficiency. When come to the efficiency graph, it is a efficiency, percentage efficiency here. When come to the head and capacity, you can take it as a HQ curve. It's with the flow rate. And this is a system curve, right? So what is they talking about? The HK curve and the system curve and the efficiency curve for the flow rate through pipe given by the intersection point of the system and HQ curve. So the standard size motor that you should recommend, that should be recommended for this application. That means you are going to operate at the pressure which is a cross section, intersection point of system curve and HQ curve. So let's take it this is the point. What is the capacity? I would say maybe 69 GPM, the flow rate. So in order to find it your flow rate, they are telling about this HQ curve and system curve, right? Now what they are asking, what is its size? What HP? The power pump, not 3 HP, 5 HP rise. That. What is the power of pump you recommend? What is the formula? I'll go back to the question. Sorry, the answer. You can see here. So power output you have to calculate H cube rho, but here HP, HQ, SG, right? Take it as a water because it is not given different fluid or anything. That means HG become 1, right? Because HP you have to calculate. It is in a gallon, right? It is given in gallon, right? Q. The Q is given in gallon per minute and SG equal to 1. So use this formula you have to calculate. So then after that, that is the power output divided by the percentage of efficiency. That gives you a total power required. Clear? So there is a 2 thing you have to use. HP formula and then convert that output by efficiency gives you a pump power, right? So now you go back to here, the Okay, here. So gallon per minute is a 69. So if you see the 69, what is the efficiency? Something here. It's around 40.
Around 39.
40.
39.
Around 40.
42. Little bit, 42 or 43. So that is your efficiency, right? So now can you calculate the power output and then HP required? So for 69 gallon per minute, what is the height? That also you need, right? H cube, the formula is there, no power output. What is it? Just now I showed you, I asked you to note down. First you have to calculate the power output. Then you have to use the efficiency, right? H, you need H in a feet, Q in a flow rate, SG become 1 because assuming water. So you have to calculate that HP first, right? Then take the efficiency from the chart. Take the H from the chart, Q also from the chart. Then calculate the power output, then substitute here. Clear? So for 69 gallon per minute, what is the height, head? That also we have to refer the chart only. That's why they gave a HQ curve. Right? From here, if you see, I think that's the next one. For 69 gallon per minute, if you see 69 gallon per minute, the head is 86 or 87 feet.
Answer will be 5.
So 5. Power output divided by the efficiency.
3.5. So 3.5 means 5.
3 HP. So here they take it as the efficiency is a 0.44 because it's a 50. So each one is 2. So 0.44 is the efficiency and 69 is a gallon. 85 they have taken. So here also it's a 44. So it become a 85 into 69 divided by 3960. That's a key thing. Did you anything divided by? 3 HP, maybe 3 point something.
3.3.
Something, yeah.
3.3. Actually, with 0.42, it was coming 3.5.
So 0.44, it is a 3 HP, right? So very common question is, this chart is frequently coming and this theoretical question is frequently coming. That's a laminar turbulent. And then this one, this question very often coming, right? And then the NPHH, this one. So 3 important questions in calculation, I would say. So this question, determine the size of pump if required flow rate is 0.7. Here it is not a no choice. I just want you to hands on the calculation for the total head calculation. Specific gravity is given, velocity is given, pump efficiency is given. So it's combination of everything. You have to calculate the total head because the previous sum, the head is given from the graph, right? But here I'm asking you to calculate the head also from the information given, whatever the parameter is given. Then after that, you use that output, you calculate your pump requirement, right? So they have given the charge, suction head, velocity head is the friction, you can ignore, vapor pressure, you can ignore. But friction also they have given, pipe diameter, pipe length is given, you can substitute. I have worked out, if you can understand, you go through this. Q is there, specific gravity, these are the thing given. So calculate the V, HS different, 200 minus 100, that's a 200, discharge side suction and suction side suction. Then calculate FL V squared by 2GD. Right? That if you know the L, if you know the velocity, if you know the D, you can calculate the friction. HV is nothing but V squared by 2G. You calculate the HV, then total head is nothing but add up everything. 100 plus 128 plus 28, 28.62. Then calculate your power output in terms of kilowatt. Right? So Sometimes they may give the flow chart like this also. Then they may ask you to calculate the total head. Whatever the sample question what we saw, they didn't ask you to calculate the total head, right? By seeing this kind of diagram. With the flow friction head also given. Since there is no vapor, it's not a fluid, they assume here it is a water, there is no vapor pressure is given, so you can ignore the vapor pressure head. Clear? Very, very important topic, fluid mechanics. Show short 2 question will be there. Distillation 2 or 3 question you can see. Reaction kinetics 2 questions. So something around 7 to 8. Reaction kinetics, distillation, fluid mechanics. Okay. So what we left is so far, we have covered, maybe we just see this fire extinguisher, no? Just a few slides only, 5-6 slides only. We can see what are the different type of fire extinguisher, for what kind of fire you have to use that one. What we completed so far, we have completed heat transfer, process calculation, reaction kinetics, fluid mechanics, distillation, right? So the leftover is economic analysis and thermodynamics. 2 chapters left over, and the project management. So next class, I think we are going to start the project management, because without project management, I can't continue the economic analysis. Right? So let's just see the fire extinguisher. Some simple, this is recently I added because see, a fire extinguisher and economic analysis I have recently added from the feedback from the candidate. They said they got a 2 question from economic question, and fire extinguisher they got 1 question like that. Different types of fire: class A, class B, class C, class D, and electrical fires and class F fires. Right? Class A means it's a combustible material. All wood, paper, fabric, all class A type of fire. B means it's a petrol, paint, turpentine, all are flammable liquid. Then C is a gas. Combustible metal or class D. Electrical equipment fire, electrical fires. F is typically a cooking oil, right? That's a class F type of fire. 5 type of fire extinguisher: water, foam, dry powder, CO2, and wet chemical. Water, where you use? Generally, for any fire which is related to the paper, cardboard, fabric, textile, wood, and coal, right? So they may give us some scenario. You have to read for what type of fire it is. Maybe sometimes they may ask what class of A, B, AC, A, B, C, D, or sometimes what extinguisher is have to be used, right? That kind of fire. So generally, water extinguisher for class A. Label red color. What are things you do not use it for electrical equipments, kitchen fire, and the gas, right? So that is what your water. So which are the premises? Office, school, hospitals, residential property, warehouse. All are need either they use a water or foam extinguishers. Next is the foam extinguisher. This can be used class B and also class A. Cream color for what kind of thing you can? Flammable liquids, paint and petrol also, paper, cardboard also you can use. That's the foam extinguisher type of fire. You cannot use the electrical equipment, metals, that means class D you cannot use. Electrical fire you cannot use. Class F you cannot use. So same way, dry powder, right? That's called ABC distinguisher. It can handle ABC fires. Paper, liquid, and the third one is electrical equipment, no metal, isn't it? Class 3 is a flammable gas. So ABC you can use, right? Color is a blue. Flammable liquid and flammable gas also. How it works, that is just for your information, but this is important, right? Generally, if you know it will extinguish ABC fire, you can estimate roughly, you can assume what kind of premises it has to be, can be used. Fire extinguishers, what is the different specialty dry powder distinguisher? This is something additional you can go through. The CO2, This is for your flammable liquid, petrol and electrical fires, generally for electrical fires, and also can be used for liquid and petroleum. Kitchen, metal, paper do not use a CO2. So all your vehicle, right, nowadays, you know, there's a 2 kg of CO2 there because it's a CO2 extinguisher we are using in our car, small size, and it consists of 2 kg of CO2 because of your flammable gas. Wet chemical for all your cooking oil and paper, fabric and all, you can use a wet chemical. So that's all. Right? Just quickly remember different type of fire extinguisher and what for use. I have some picture also. There is some question, different type of class fire. They put it some scenario, what class fire it is, right? And then they put some extinguisher for what kind of fire you can use, right? That kind of, maybe choose 1, 2 options that way. So that's all. The leftover topic, 2 topic, thermodynamics and economic analysis, and the project management. That means 3 topic in total. Okay, you prepare well. If any doubt, if no doubt, we can close for the day. Then next class, if anything, you can go through that, whatever we discuss, the sum, calculation and everything. If any doubt, we can discuss next class. Okay?
Okay.
Anything? No? We can close? Okay, bye-bye. See you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good night.
See you. Bye. Good night.